Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. Thank you for joining us for episode 64 of the Old Man Magic podcast. It is Halloween, Alex.
Halloween!
It is a perfect time for us to continue our zombie discussion. We talked last week about zombies. I said, it would be great if we could get the second episode out on Halloween Day. Well, we failed. We're recording on Halloween Day, but it's going to come out like the day after Halloween or 2 days after Halloween.
People won't be tired of it yet.
Anyway, zombies are an evergreen topic. So our topics for today, we have more pre-modern zombies to discuss. Last week, we talked about our zombie A-team, those zombies that we definitely want to sleeve up if we're heading into battle, if we're going to competition, if we're attending a pre-modern tournament. What zombies do we want to play? This week, we're going to cover the B team. These are the zombies for brewing. These are the zombies for kitchen table magic. Maybe some of them can make it in a competitive decks too, as a little surprise. Best way to beat your opponent, the element of surprise. So we're going to discuss the B team zombies today. We're also going to discuss a few modern frame zombie commanders. Last week, we covered some old frame zombie commanders to run at the retirement home. This week, we're going to get a glimpse of power creep when we discuss some of the new frame zombie commanders that I found. Boris Devilboon cannot compete with these fellas, I'll tell you that.
Am I getting riled up?
Potentially.
Okay.
They're actually not that, and there's one of them that might be like, what the hell is this even? I'm not going to say might be. That's actually what I said out loud when I was sitting by myself in front of my computer. I go, what the hell is this even? But the rest of them, I think they're fair. They're still crazy, but they're fair enough.
Okay.
Before we get into the zombie B team discussion, we have some follow-ups to last episode. Last episode, one of the zombies we covered was Soulless One. Let me find Soulless One here. Soulless One is a zombie avatar from Onslaught. We talked a little bit about this zombie. I wanted to mention, we didn't talk about this last episode, that this guy's part of a cycle from Onslaught. It is the Avatar cycle. Some of these cards, we actually talked about before on the podcast. I totally forgot about them. One of them, I even have in a deck that I play, and I totally forgot about it. But these are the other avatar cards from that cycle in Onslaught. Cycle of Uncommons.
Yeah, I had just found out that this was a cycle, even though I had seen one or two of the cards before, and I was excited. I thought this was cool, and I was calling them the ones, so I'm glad I know to call them avatars now, because that's less confusing.
Soulless One, it's star. Power and toughness are equal to the number of zombies in play, plus the number of zombies in all graveyards. So, one of these cards can get really big as the game goes on. Also good with zombies because you're going to have a lot of zombies in play or a lot of zombies in your graveyard. The white avatar is Doubtless One. Creature, cleric avatar. So you have cleric's energy there. Star. Doubtless One's power and toughness are each equal to the number of clerics in play. Whenever it deals damage, you gain that much life. So it has a lifelink ability. In green, you have an elf avatar, Heedless One. Star Trample. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of elves in play. Nameless One, a wizard avatar. Here you got your wizard synergy in the blue. Star. Nameless One's power and toughness are each equal to the number of wizards in play. You can morph this fella. And then Reckless One. This is the one I actually have on my zombie deck. Not one of the absolute best cards you can put in a zombie deck. Nobody really plays them in zombie decks. I wanted to play them in my zombie deck because I like to have just one creature that has the potential to get giant in your deck, even though most of the time didn't really need that with zombies. And even if you don't have a giant creature that's huge in power and toughness, you still have power drivers, which can get huge in power, which is really all you need to finish off your opponent. But I like having creatures like this in my deck every once in a while.
It's tough with goblins because there's so many good options.
There's so many good ones, yeah.
So, but I like that as haste. That makes it a little more attractive to mess around with.
So overall, it's a pretty strong cycle. Definitely a lot of cards here that are fun for kitchen table magic. I bet you lots of people run Reckless One and Heedless One, especially.
Worst one?
Well, I mean, I would call Nameless One the worst one,
Yeah, me
just
too.
because of. Well, I mean, I was gonna say just because of the fact that it has wizard synergy, and I don't really like to run wizard decks. I don't think there's as much good wizard synergy out there. But even aside from the poor synergy, in my opinion, the additional ability
Yeah,
is not that great.
not great.
Just
I haven't messed with
morph.
morph really too much. I have one or two cards in decks with some morph on them,
Mm-hmm.
but usually I see it. I feel like the morph like trade-off is usually a little bit better than this. Like, I don't know. I don't have any statistics to back that up, but to put this down for 3 and then flip it for another 3,
That's a lot.
it's already only 4 to cast. I
Yeah.
don't know. And I don't know. Like, I guess this could be a big surprise though if they don't realize you're playing a wizard deck right off the bat or something. Then you flip this guy over and he's 6/6 or something. But yeah, this is my least favorite of the 5.
It's the weakest. Soulless One, I think, is by far the strongest. I mean, it has one major feature that the others don't have, like a major feature, which puts it into a whole other class. It gets power and toughness equal to how many creatures of its kind are not only in play, but also in the graveyard.
Yeah, it definitely has the potential to grow a lot more.
Yeah.
Because of that. I do like the life link on the white one though. I put it in a cleric deck. And I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see. But having something that's maybe 5/5, 6/6, 7/7 with life link could be pretty sweet. And obviously trample's good with the elf deck one. So I don't know. There's a couple that are good.
Not bad. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad cycle at all. It's
But
a
yeah,
fun
you're right. The
cycle.
zombie one is the only one that reaches, the creatures in the graveyard like that. So interesting.
So much better, in my opinion. So that was follow-up number 1. Soulless One is part of a cycle. Follow-up number 2 is a little something I read about casting Stifle in response to a cycling card. So
Okay.
we talked about Gem Palm Polluter. This is one of our 8-team zombies. And Gem Palm Polluter is a zombie that can be cycled to do damage to your opponent. And the Gatherer for Gem Palm Polluter, let me pull that fellow up. I should have been more prepared. I should have had this guy pulled up already, but I did not. Sing some music for the listeners, Alex, while I pull up Gem Palm Polluter. You need an instrument.
Well, when we were reading the
need a
ruling on
keyboard
this, it seemed to solve the problem for us last week, but we weren't entirely sure.
Yeah. There were a couple rulings that were mentioned for Gem Palm Polluter. In particular, these first two. So one, when you cycle this card, first the cycling ability goes on the stack, then the triggered ability goes on the stack on top of it. The triggered ability resolved before you draw a card from the cycling ability. So that's just the order of operations for the stack. Second one, the cycling ability and the triggered ability are separate. If the triggered ability doesn't resolve, because, for example, it has been countered, or all of its targets have become illegal, the cycling ability will still resolve, and you'll draw a card. Well, we already know that you can't counterspell cycling because it's an activated ability, not a spell. We talked about that before, but you can stifle it. So when it says here, for example, if it has been countered, I think they're talking about cases in which it's stifled or something.
Okay.
Stifled or an equivalent, right? You can't.
Yeah.
I find that the use of the word countered, they're weird, because if I understand correctly, you can't counter cycling. That seems pretty straightforward. We wondered what happened when you target the cycling ability with stifle, not the triggered ability. Will that nullify both abilities? Because the ruling right here explains what happens if the triggered ability doesn't resolve, and right before that, it explains that the triggered ability goes on the stack after the cycling ability and then resolves before the cycling ability. But it doesn't say what happens if you stifle
Right.
the cycling ability.
Yeah.
And that seems like it would be the thing to target.
Yeah, because you
Because
would sort of think that if you could counter the cycling ability, then the activated ability wouldn't get activated, right? Is that kind of
that's how I was thinking.
yeah?
That was the question I had, at least. Does it work that way? The answer is no.
Okay.
It does not work that way. I found this post on MTG Salvation. It's a message board. The cycling ability and the triggered ability generated by cycling incinerator. Here we're talking about Gem Palm Incinerator, but the same applies to the polluter.
Mhm.
Damage both go onto the stack before your opponent can respond with Stifle. They are separate abilities, and countering one will not stop the other.
Okay, so this person says either way you do it, it doesn't work.
Yeah, they're totally separate abilities. So both of the spells enter the stack. And even though cycling goes on the stack before the triggered ability and the triggered ability resolves before
Right.
the cycling ability, it's not linear. It's not like if you stifle the cycling ability, then the triggered ability can never happen. They're
Yeah.
separate abilities.
I think I understand now. I will forget this though.
Do not forget it. If you forget it, you just come back to our show notes, or you could rewatch this episode. You could go to YouTube. You could go to episode 64 of the Oh My Magic podcast. You could watch our second follow-up, re-listen and relearn. These are things that we did not know because we've been out of the game for a long time. A lot of other people probably know this already. Those are the end of my follow-ups from the last episode, Alex. I don't know if you had any follow-ups. If you did not have any follow-ups,
I don't
we're
think
going to
so.
get
I
right
might have
into
one. I'm
segment
working
one.
on one for maybe like next week or something. We'll get to it later.
Okay.
Not today.
Future episode. Alex has a follow-up for future episodes. Everybody make sure you tune in for those follow-ups. Now that we're done with the follow-ups, we're going to get into the major segments for today's episode. I'm going to call segment 1 More Pre-Modern Zombies. We're going to discuss the B-team zombies, the specialty zombies. Last week, our focus was on the zombies you need to consider if you're brewing a competitive tournament deck. This week, we're focusing more on the spicy zombies, the utility zombies, the zombies that are fun and sometimes competitive, but they might not find their way into your average 60-card competitive zombie deck. I'm going to kind of organize these the same way that I organized the cards last week. Low casting cost 1-drops to higher casting cost. In the 1-drop category, I have none. So we're skipping that one. In the 2-drop category, I have one we already talked about. So we don't really have much to say about this one. I just wanted to bring it up really quickly. Again, we didn't really focus on this one. We just saw it as a one of in somebody's deck. And we were like, oh, look at that. I wonder why he chose to run this one. It is Wretched Anurid. I called this a must in any zombie frog beast deck. Because if you're looking for something that has zombie synergy and frog synergy and beast synergy, I don't know what better card you could possibly choose for your zombie frog beast deck than Wretched Anurid. He's a common from Onslaught. It's 1 colorless, 1 black. Creature zombie beast. 3/3. Whenever another creature comes into play, you lose 1 life. So it's just a good, for an aggressive creature-based zombie deck, this is a good 2-drop because it's above rate for power and toughness.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. We talked about how you probably don't want to run many of these. It's probably not going to be a 4 of because in a zombie deck, you might have plenty of other cards like we've seen that will cause you to lose life. And you don't want to have too many of those in your zombie deck because you're going to kill yourself consistently before you're able to kill your opponent. But you might want to put, 1 or 2 of these in your deck. Depending, I'd have to fill around with this, see if it would actually make its way in.
Yeah, the tough thing about this guy for me is that my mind immediately goes, another creature comes into play, you lose 1 life. I'm like, okay, well, you could play it in like as your only creature in an otherwise creatureless deck or something, but then you're not getting the zombie buffing, that a zombie deck typically is going to get from the creatures affecting each other and stuff. So
you could just play it in a black-green beast deck mostly. And you could play this on turn 2, and then ramp into your Ravenous Baloth on turn 3. And then you take a damage when you bring the Baloth in, but who cares? If you wanted to, you could always sacrifice the Anurid, get
Yeah,
4
then you
back.
get rid of the Anurid and you don't have to worry about the its negative thing continuing to happen. That's good. So yeah, play it as something that you can sacrifice with Baloths or with black sack cards. Yeah, yeah.
So who knows? But I thought that was a cool. I think it's a cool one.
Yeah,
It'll
get that
probably
early
make
ramp.
it into. What'd you say?
I was just gonna say, get that early ramp. Ramp him. Get him out early, and then get rid of him.
It'll probably make it into some of my brews, and I'll take it out because I won't like it. That's what I imagine happening with Wretched Anurid. Then we're going to go from the 2 drops. That's the only 2 drop I had for spicy zombie kitchen table brewing. I'm going to go straight into the 3 drops. We got a lot of cards in the 3 drop spot. This is a crowded area for kitchen table zombies. Zombie Master. Again, one we briefly mentioned because we saw it in a sideboard or 2, but we didn't talk much about the Zombie Master. Zombie Master is a rare from Alpha Beta Unlimited Revised 5th and 6th edition. When it comes to a card like the Zombie Master, I have to pull up the Alpha. Sweet. Need those black borders.
Look at that. Look at how the coloring in the
damn.
art changes. I love it. Interesting. Get that like sunset in the background, different on some of these editions.
Casting cost for Zombie Master is 1 colorless, 2 black. It was originally Summon Lord. It is now in Gatherer, Summon Zombie.
Okay.
It's 2/3. All zombies in play gain Swamp Walk and pay 1 black to regenerate for as long as this card remains in play. The Gather update reads, other zombie creatures have Swamp Walk. They can't be blocked as long as defending player controls a swamp. Other zombies have 1 black, regenerate this permanent. So they kind of got around that. Early on, they didn't want these. You have these early lords from the Alpha cycle where they're lords instead of the creatures that they lord over. So they don't get the bonuses that they give to other creatures that they lord over.
Yeah.
They took the Zombie Master, they errated it, so it's no longer a lord. It's now a zombie, but then they changed the text, so it still doesn't get its benefit.
Yeah. But it can get benefit from other things.
Exactly.
You have other zombie buffing things.
So the errata did make it stronger.
Is that what they did to Goblin King too?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Are you going to pull them up on Gather right now to see? A Zombie Master has a rating of 4.194 on Gatherer. Very strong rating.
Yeah, same with Goblin King. Other goblins get +1/+1 and have Mountain Walk, and he is a goblin.
Okay.
Now, so yeah, that's cool. Yeah, this was pretty much our only option back in 1994.
I never played zombies.
Right, because this was our only option.
I say not strong enough for the main board, but strong enough in matches against black decks that I definitely want to sideboard it in. I see this as a definite sideboard in my zombie deck, and we saw it in 2 sideboards.
That's what I was going to say. We saw it in the sideboards last week, didn't we? Yeah.
It's just that Swamp Walk. I mean, cases where you happen to be playing another black deck, the Swamp Walk is too strong. Just pay 3 mana and Swamp Walk all over that ass. That's the end of the game. You got a horde of zombies out. You just need 1 turn of Swamp Walking. Do you disagree?
No, I don't. No.
Of course you don't.
Could be excellent. I was just thinking about the regenerate ability. I might have said this last week. You could sideboard it in for the regenerate ability too against maybe, say you're playing like a red deck and they don't have like exile type removal or something like that.
I consistently find myself underwhelmed by regenerate.
Me too.
And I did back in the day too, when I was a child.
I always wanted to play it.
And then. when I became all grown up and I got back into Magic, I started playing Regenerate again, and I'm like, I didn't learn my lesson. I learned this lesson 25 years ago. I'm doing it again. I don't really care about Regenerate. Even with one of my favorite creatures, River Boa, like most of the time, I'm most excited to have a River Boa on the board because it has Island Walk, not necessarily because of its Regenerate. And when I want to take advantage of the Regenerate, I don't want to pay the mana to do it because I want to be doing something else. That's the real issue with Regenerate.
Yeah, keeping that mana open for it.
Even that mana open, man, it's tough. Next 3-drop. Got one that was not printed in alpha. This is a rare from Weatherlight. It is also a reserve list card, which is why a bunch of dopes 10x the price in 2021. I say dopes. It was probably, a lot of people just like you and me who are getting back into Magic 25 years later, and we're like, oh, we got government stimmy checks. Let's buy friggin' Bone Dancer. It's 1 colorless, 2 black, summon zombie, 2/2. Pay a colorless. No. Pay 0 colorless. So you can just activate this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Put the top creature card of defending player's graveyard into play under your control. You love shit like this, Alex. Bone Dancer deals no combat damage this turn. Use this ability only if Bone Dancer is attacking and unblocked, and only once each turn. It has a rating of 4.282 on Gatherer, which is, I gotta say, much higher than I thought it would be.
Really?
Much higher. And current market price of $2.46, much better than the $10 it was selling for 2 years ago.
Yeah. So much as you have learned a lesson about Regenerate, I feel like I've learned a lesson about creatures that have an ability that occurs when or triggers when they get through unblocked.
I've also learned this lesson.
I really like that ability on creatures. It makes them devastating sometimes, but in practice, they always get blocked or eliminated somehow, and you don't get to use it. And then this one, it's also dependent on them having a creature that you want on the top of the graveyard.
Yeah.
Or it being the top creature card of the graveyard, right?
Yeah.
So,
it has to be able to do a thing before it can do its thing. And on top of that, like you said, that has to have a creature that you want in the graveyard. And on top of that, it has to be in a certain order.
Yeah.
In a certain position.
And if I'm getting through unblocked already, I feel like, that's kind of like, you're already on your way to winning, maybe, without having to steal their creatures now. Because if you have a way to get through unblocked, like you're land walking them or something, then you probably don't need more creatures of theirs to help you out. Does that make sense?
That is absolutely true.
Yeah. The art's cool on it, though.
It is. It is a pretty cool looking card. I wrote down a couple notes about this card. First thing I said, I'm always drawn to cards like this, but they're rarely ever good. Because one, they're too slow, and you often can't do the damn thing. You often can't do the damn thing that you want to do with them. Because, like you said, it's just not that easy to get through. You're like, oh man, all I need to do is get through with one attack and I get to do this cool ass thing. Well, good luck. Good luck, buddy. I've run into this with Rootwater Thief. I really want to play Rootwater Thief. I really like, in my meddling merfolk, doing annoying things with the merfolk. I really love going through people's decks and stealing shit. I've played you a few times with my meddling merfolk deck. Most of the time, the Rootwater Thief, I just can't get them through. And then there were even sometimes, I think one game I got through maybe 3 or 4 times. I went through your deck 3 or 4 times, removed 3 or 4 different things. When I'm able to do that in a game, I was probably going to win anyways. Like, I don't think I won because of the Rootwater Thief. So they are very fun in casual Magic, though. I still love them. I love
pressure on, though, is one thing. Like, it gives them something that they have to respond to. They have to get rid of it or block it. And having that pressure on someone can make them make mistakes. They start to get scared.
They might see this thing that the card can do, and it might not be the most devastating thing, but it might be something that doesn't happen to them all the time, and they might think,
they
oh, I
overreact.
don't want that to happen to me.
I don't want someone digging through my library. Like,
what's this about?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then they waste a swords on it, they waste removal on it, and then something even better comes out afterwards.
Yeah.
So that is a good point. I should use the Rootwater Thief to bait removal to then bring out my Rootwater Matriarch to then spirit link your creature and then steal it. There are 6 different rulings associated with this card on Gather. I wanted to highlight a few of them. One of them, if an effect or rule puts 2 or more cards into the same graveyard at the same time, the owner of those cards may arrange them in any order.
Okay.
So, this is a card where, of course, graveyard order matters. Graveyard matters, order matters. This particular ruling makes it a little bit weaker because the person who you're playing against gets to decide, okay, you take out 2 things at once and they might give you the shitty thing. Put that on top.
Right.
Next ruling, the last thing that happens to a resolving instant or sorcery spell is that it's put into its owner graveyard. For example, you cast Wrath of God. All creatures on the battlefield are destroyed. You arrange all the cards put into your graveyard this way in any order you want. The other players in the game do the same to the cards that are put into their graveyards. Then you put Wrath of God into your graveyard on top of the other cards. So again, if your opponent plays some kind of wipe, they nail all the creatures, they can put Wrath of God on top. So if you bring out your Bone Dancer afterwards, like something might not even be on top of the graveyard for you to steal. Just makes it, again, harder for you to get the Bone Dancer to do the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing that I highlighted, I don't remember why I wanted to highlight this one, but I'm going to read it anyways. Say you're the owner of both a permanent and an aura that's attached to it. If both the permanent and the aura are destroyed at the same time by a Chroma's Vengeance, for example, you decide the order they're put into your graveyard. If just the enchanted permanent is destroyed, it's put in the graveyard first. Then after state bait actions or checks, the aura is put into your graveyard on top of it. I think, again, it's your opponent just deciding which order to put things in the graveyard.
Yeah, unless
So
the
things
creature
go on
with the
top of
aura
the
is
creature.
destroyed, then it goes first and the aura lands on top of it, right?
Well, this is the last part that I read. It blanked out for a second, even though I just fucking read it.
Yeah.
If just the enchanted permanent is destroyed, if just the enchanted permanent is destroyed, it's put in your graveyard first. Then after state bait actions are checked, the aura is put into your graveyard on top of it. Yeah. So like,
I'm having trouble understanding why they're differentiate. Like I understand with the Wrath of God thing, you get to change the order, you decide the order of the creatures. But what does it matter about the order of the aura and the creature? Because this card only cares about the top creature card of the graveyard.
yeah.
Like it shouldn't. I'm trying to think of there's probably some like other case scenario where that matters when there's another card in play.
I don't know exactly why either, but I do know that in both of these cases, if both the permanent and the aura are destroyed at the same time, or if just the permanent is destroyed, in both of those cases, the aura can end up on, well, in one case, the aura must end on top of the creature.
Mm-hmm.
In the other case, your opponent can put the aura on top of the creature. So in both cases, your Bone Dancer is not going to be able to do the damn thing because there's going to be an aura.
Wait, I might be misunderstanding this thing because that's not how I was interpreting Bone Dancer. I was thinking that the way that it's phrased means that, okay,
Bone Dancer, let's read it again.
You may put the top, I'm looking at the errata too, not just a normal card. Whenever attacks isn't blocked, you may put the top creature card of defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So if you have a creature card in your graveyard and there's an aura on top of it, the creature is still the top creature card of your graveyard.
That is true.
Is the way I'm thinking about it.
I was thinking about this card the wrong way then. So it's okay. It's better than I thought it was.
Yeah. I think if something other than
the
creature is on top of the creature, that's not going to stop it from working. It's just that you only,
It does specify creature card. Put the top creature card. Doesn't say a creature card must be the top card of the library to take it. I mean the graveyard to take it.
Yeah. So I don't understand then why they're going into all the thing about whether the aura is on top of the creature.
That's a good point.
It must have to do with like another card that we're not looking at right now.
But this is probably why I thought it worked the way that I originally thought it, because I'm reading these rulings and they're talking about how, your opponent can choose to put things on top of the creature in the graveyard. And I'm like, sounds like it might nullify the Bone Dancer's effect. I don't know that. Interesting. There was a comment about this card, Bone Dancer. Left by Carnophage Forever. He rated it a half star back in August 11th, 2010. That is harsh. I want to read his comment. From a zombie tribal perspective, I give it a 3 out of 5. Well, why does
you
it say
gave it
you
half a
rated it
star
a half star
out of 5?
But I'm going to move on. This otherwise good soldier in a discard deck is almost just like a 2/2 for 3 vanilla zombie, unless you use the following combo: Bone Dancer, Zombie Master, Urborg Blanket of Night. This is too much of a long shot and is out of line with a zombie deck's purpose. For zombie deckers, use Carnophage, Dredgescape Zombie, or even Sarcomancy, among others, instead of this guy. I agree with him. I wanted to read this because I was thinking my thoughts on this card are in line with those of Carnophage Forever. Like Zombie Master, Bone Dancer, it needs to get through to do its damn thing. Most of the time, it's not going to get through. If you want them to get through consistently, you're going to have to do shit like this, where you give your opponent swamps and then play Zombie Master to swamp walk, when you could just play Carnophage and Sarcomancy.
I think the comment about otherwise good in a discard deck is useful too, because I wasn't thinking about that. I'm thinking of, you have to destroy creatures to get them into your opponent's graveyard. But since you're playing black, you could be filling their graveyard with creatures by making them discard. So
it is very true.
That could be good.
It's just the getting through part.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt. Blanket of Night. I didn't remember. From Visions, it's an enchantment. 1 colorless, 2 black. Each mana producing land is a swamp in addition to its normal land type. As an Asmira Holy Adventure quote. Flavor text. How much is Blanket of Night right now? It won't tell me because I'm not on MTG stocks. What am I thinking? Let's move on to number 3, Alex. The third kitchen table zombie, the third spicy zombie, the third zombie for brewing we're going to talk about on Halloween.
79 cents. Sorry.
Night. Blanket of Night is 79 cents. Is Undead Gladiator.
Yeah.
Okay, Bone Dancer better than I thought. I don't know why. I read that and we've talked about, some people say reading the card explains the card. Well, that doesn't always work if your brain doesn't function properly. Sometimes I read the card and I have an idea of how I want the card to work before I read it. And then even though what I read is different from what I think it's going to say, my brain still sticks with what I think it's going to say. The Bone Dancer is a case study for that type of occurrence. I don't know why I thought like the creature had to be on the top of your deck. No, it says put the top creature card of the graveyard.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, what did I just say? I don't know why I thought a creature card had to be on top of the graveyard in order to steal it. That's not the case. It's saying you can take whatever the top creature is in the graveyard. There could be,
at least that's how I interpret it. I mean, unless I'm wrong or something, but
maybe you are wrong. We'll figure that out. But I'm glad you brought it up, because then I sit down, I really look at the card, I read it, I'm like, oh, it sounds like you're right. I think I got confused when I was reading the rulings, and they have all these rulings about orders of auras and sorceries and Wrath of God on top of the creature card. Why would they be bringing that up?
Yeah, that might just matter because if there are other spells or effects that are doing things like removing the top couple cards in your graveyard from the game, or just like tampering with the graveyard based on its order in general.
That's true. Yeah, we've seen cards that like Phyrexian Furnace. Don't you tap it to remove the top card of the graveyard from the game or some shit?
Oh, okay.
So like that matters. Google type in Phyrexian Furnace real quick just to make sure you tap it to remove the top card from the game. A third B-Team zombie, Undead Gladiator. Undead Gladiators are rare from Onslaught, recently reprinted and Dominaria remastered. Has a casting cost of 1 colorless, 2 black. It is Summon Zombie Barbarian, so you got 2 clan synergies working for you here. It's 3/1. You can pay 1 colorless, 1 black, discard a card from your hand, So if you want to discard cards, discard give you an outlet for that. Return Undead Gladiator from your graveyard to your hand. Play this ability only during your upkeep, and you can cycle it for 1 colorless, 1 black. It has a rating of 3.923 on Gatherer. Current market price of 59 cents. I mean, as just a creature itself, as just power and toughness, underwhelming for its mana cost, but the cycling ability makes this card interesting. I mean, you could technically slowly draw through your whole deck. It's costly in mana to do it, but you could use this to cycle through your whole deck. Cycle, put it in the graveyard, draw a card. Then you could pay the colorless and the black to discard that card from your hand if you didn't want it. Return Undead Gladiator to your hand. Do that again. Might be an opportunity for
4 of these. Sorry, what?
Might be an opportunity to play this card, and like I'm thinking, okay, what can you do with this card in like a mono black prison style deck where you can generate a lot of mana, Cabal Coffers, slow game, card advantage game. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see it getting interesting if you have like 4 of these in your deck and you're cycling them and bringing them back and discarding other cards and getting some kind of chain going.
You just need a lot of mana. I don't think it's necessarily a type of cycling card you're going to be able to use in like any sort of quick combo. I might not just be thinking of that right now, though. Maybe you can. Interesting to try out. I don't know other ways. How many other ways in black are there to like do this type of thing where you can dig deeper into your deck? If Phyrexian Arena where you just draw extra cards. I don't know. Might be some stuff out there. I thought this guy was interesting.
Is it Unearth has cycling on it? And this doesn't matter too much with this card. I do notice that the cycling has black mana in the cost. A lot of cycling cards are just colorless, but if you're playing zombies, it probably doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, Unearth, cycling 2. Choose target creature card in your graveyard with total casting cost 3 or less. Put that creature into play. Yeah, cool. But you can't, like, you just cycle it once. You can't keep doing it.
Yeah.
Can't keep doing it.
Yeah, but if you were playing maybe like this in a deck with that zombie, like those 2 cards would probably go well together. You have multiple cycling cards, then you can use this to bring the zombie back into play.
Let's move on to number 4. Number 4, the B Team Zombies. This is an old school zombie. It's not incredible or anything, but I wanted to include it. It's a common from Ice Age, recently reprinted and Dominaria Remastered, casting cost of 1 colorless, 2 black. It's Gangrenous Zombies. Summon Zombies, 2/2, tap, sacrifice Gangrenous Zombies to have it deal 1 damage to each creature and player. If you control any snow-covered swamps, which I never control, Gangrenous Zombies instead deals 2 damage to each creature and player. Has a rating of 3.069 on Gatherer. Current market price is 16 cents. I saw this and I thought, oh man, there's lots of pesky 1/1s out there. Maybe this is more useful than I thought it was in the past. I don't know. It's not cheap mana-wise. It's 3. It's a 2/2. But you could use it if you wanted to clear out a bunch of 1/1s, to clear out mana moles, to clear out pesky elves. There was a Gatherer comment after I said this. I read this comment and I thought, this is what I was thinking. They gave it 5 stars. They say, I think this card is currently underrated. After all, it's a 2/2/3 drop, which might cause an, although not surprising, pyroclasm. It says, although not surprising, because in order for it to have the pyroclasm type effect, deal 2 damage to all creatures, you have to have a snow-covered swamp out, so you're not going to be able to surprise your opponent. They're going to see it. I'm looking at the rating here. The star rating in Gatherer, is that the rating that the person applies to the card, or can people rate other people's comments? Maybe Carnophage Forever didn't really rate Undead Zombie.
Oh yeah, that might have been people rating that comment.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I don't want to I want to make sure I didn't slander Carnophage Forever. His comment Bone Dancer, he did give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, now that you
Maybe
say that might have been, those stars might be the ratings of the comments themselves.
maybe other people rated his comment half a star. If they did, that's fucked, because I mean, I liked his comment. It was a pretty good comment. It was
Mhm.
better than the comments that were higher above his.
Yeah.
So yeah, could be a pyroclasm when you needed it. But then I thought to myself, it's probably better just to run a stronger 3-drop zombie and then put a pyroclasm or an equivalent if you're mono black or something in your sideboard,
Yeah.
expensive mana wise for what it is.
It's a very Ice Age card to me, though.
Yeah. And, costly mana wise for what it does. Slow if you want to do what it's doing. Very Ice Age. Some people are playing a format called Alice, Ice Age and Alliances.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, ooh, I could find myself getting into that, to be honest. It's making me want to buy more Ice Age cards and more Alliances cards, because we've talked about Ice Age and Alliances. And, Alliances, I think, is a little bit stronger than Ice Age. When Alliances came out, I was like, okay, now we're starting to move in a better direction. Did I say when Alliances came out?
Yeah.
When Alliance, okay, that's what I was thinking. We're starting to move in a better direction. I'm liking this more than Ice Age. It's more powerful. But in an isolated format, in like a type 2 format when Ice Age existed, in a format with just those couple sets, Ice Age, Alliances, Homelands, a lot of the cards are pretty fun and pretty playable. And they lead to slower games. I don't mind that if both decks are slower,
Right, yeah.
and you have a lot of interaction and you get to play a lot of Magic.
Playing within a low-powered format.
In a low power format, in a low power environment. That's fun. I could see myself
Yeah, I
getting
would
into
totally do it, because we
Alice.
did stuff like that. We were playing, just buying a bunch of packs of Ice Age, and some of the people I played with were like kind of a little bit newer into the game than I was, and that was pretty much all they were playing.
Yeah.
Some points. This is interesting. I want to talk in an upcoming episode too a little bit about Cold Snap, and how it fits in, because they added that afterwards. It's the only time they've added a set to a block after the fact. So
I think that's wild. Oh, sorry, what'd you say?
I was just gonna say I thought we'd bring it up, and there were a few things. There was an article I saw about it, and a few things. This was kind of, I was gonna get into maybe like playing a Ice Age block constructed format at some point. Seems interesting.
Cold Snap, modern frame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there in about 2027. That's when we'll start covering Cold Snap. That would be, I wonder what that would be like. I have not looked at Cold Snap at all. I wonder what the power level is like for Cold Snap cards. What if you played Ice Age plus Alliances plus Cold Snap? What would that?
Well, it's meant to
like?
fit in with the other two. It uses similar mechanics. Yeah, I have an article I'll show you about it, that kind of talks about that, the history of Cold Snap, and what the block is like.
Okie dokie. That's Gangrenous Zombies. B Team Zombie number 5. This one's getting more interesting. You got multiple synergies here with Nantuko Husk. This is a common from Onslaught, also printed in Commander, 9th edition, 10th edition, Magic Origins, as we see right here. I'll pull up the Onslaught version. Casting cost 2 colorless, 1 black. Summon, not summon. Summon, zombie, insect. Those are your 2 synergies right there. Zombie synergy, insect synergy. If you're into that type of thing. This is a 2/2. When it's on the battlefield, you can sacrifice a creature. Nantuko Husk gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It has a rating of 4.027 on Gatherer. Current market price of 19 cents. Alex, Sexy Rector decks.
What's that?
I didn't know until just the other day when I found Nantuko Husk, but we have a new deck type to learn about for future episodes. That deck type is Sexy Rector decks, and it featured the Nantuko Husk. Found this comment on Gather. It was used in Onslaught block zombies. There was synergy with Festering Goblin and Rotlung Reanimator and stuff. It was used a bit in Extended for a while too in Sexy Rector decks. And they give some example turns. Turn 1, birds or elves. Turn 2, rampant and Nantuko husk. Turn 3, play Academy Rector. Swing with the husk. If it's unblocked, that's an if. You can sack the Rector, which allows you to get an enchantment. They say grab Pattern of Rebirth and attach Pattern of Rebirth to the birds or the elves. Sack the birds, grab Symbiotic Worm, sack Symbiotic Worm and the 7 tokens, all to pump the husk and win the game.
I like it. I like seeing Pattern of Rebirth in a combo.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So that was apparently a thing that people did back in the day. Other than that, it's a 2/2 for 3 with a sacrifice ability. But yeah, it's the kind of card that you could exploit. It's not the kind of card that I play in my zombie deck. I go pretty standard with creature decks. I just kind of play them the way people play slide decks. I just try to put everything out on curve, play the best creature I can for the mana cost. This is more of a combo deck, but it's great in a combo style deck.
I tend, like, my mind is sort of like to prefer the carry-on feeder that we talked about last week, because you can get it out quicker, and the counters are permanent. But this obviously has its place, with its ability to make, grow a lot bigger all at once.
Grow a lot bigger, yeah. End the game in a flourish.
Bonus points for being a Nantuko card.
Ruling on Gatherer, you can sacrifice Nantuko Husk itself to activate its own ability. However, the only thing that will do is put Nantuko Husk into the graveyard.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
That's a ruling. Anyways, that's the Husk. And we're going to have to talk about Sexy Rector decks.
I feel like they could have just ended that ruling like, you can sacrifice Nantuko Husk itself.
Yeah.
To itself.
Yeah, I don't know what people thought would happen other than putting it in the graveyard. The only thing that will do.
We're not going to learn what the Sexy Rector is yet. Is that where we're waiting? Oh
yeah, we're not going to do that yet. This is not a sexy Rector episode. This is a zombie episode. I'm just presenting you a zombie, saying this is something somebody used to do with it in the past. We'll talk about those decks in the future. B-Team Zombie number 6. Now we're getting into the 4-drops, aka the more drops, aka the more than 3 drops. Gloom Drifter. I saw this one. I thought it was pretty cool. Gloom Drifter is an uncommon from Torment, also printed in Commander 9th and 10th editions. 3 colorless, 1 black. Summon minion that has now been updated to a zombie minion. So it's also a zombie, but also still a minion. So we've got a minion for your Balthor the Defiler commander deck if you're looking for minion synergy, more minions to run with Balthor.
Okay. It
is 2/2. It has flying and threshold. When Gloom Drifter comes into play, non-black creatures get -2 until end of turn. It has a rating of 4.027 on Gather, quite high. Current market price of 3.413. Is that right? What the fuck did I write that for? No.
Look like it's right.
I don't know why I write 3.413. It's obviously Gather rating. Current market price of 23 cents. I just wrote, I saw this and I'm like, oh, a token killer. But it's more than token killer. You can take out 2/2s too.
Yeah, I can take out some pretty serious creatures, or even, weaken them enough to finish them off in combat.
I marked it as a maybe. Maybe I play this, but I don't think I ever do. It's just 4 mana. It's 4 mana. Yeah. And you have to have the threshold out. It's not like it comes into turn. You have to have the threshold built up. It's not like it comes into play and you do that.
Yeah. So like, I saw this before, I think, in a list of like zombie cards, and I was kind of like, oh, well, I'll come back to that. Interesting. And when you just pulled it up now, I was like kind of getting excited about it because of that big like contagion style effect and the fact that it's flying, which is nice.
I was going to say that. I do really like that it's flying.
when I read it though, I conveniently ignored threshold when I was like going through the card.
Yeah.
So you're right, I have to pay attention to that. It's not the hardest thing to do though. I mean, threshold's not
No,
super bad.
it's not super bad.
Not super bad. I
I
don't know.
just
I'm not sure how I feel about this. I will try it.
think it's not good enough to make the 60 card deck. I could see it if I'm making a old frame zombie commander deck. One of the 100.
I think I'd probably just try it in like a non-zombie deck.
You could also do that.
Maybe like in a red-black deck with burn, you know? I can
That
like
could happen.
lay that down, weaken a bunch of their creatures, and then like finish nuking them off. And plus, it's flying still, so
That could happen. I do like that it's flying or drifting at least. I don't know. It's in the sky. So we'll count it either way. It might be the only flying zombie.
drifting.
B team zombie number 7. At the 7 spot. Not in order of playability. Just the order in which I wrote them down. Order of Yawgmoth. This is an uncommon from Urza's Saga, also printed in the list in a dual deck. It's 2 colorless, 2 black. Oopsie daisy. Summon Knight. Now errata to summon Phyrexian Zombie Knight. 2/2, Order of Yawgmoth cannot be blocked except by artifact creatures and black creatures. Whenever Order of Yawgmoth successfully deals damage to a player, that player chooses and discards a card. So an ability we've seen on many black cards since the beginning of Magic. Has a rating of 4.038 on Gatherer. That's higher than I thought it would be. Current market price is 23 cents. We've now seen several zombies in this B team list that have some effect if they attack and they are not blocked. We are finally seeing one that has fear built in.
Mm-hmm.
Finally.
Yeah, and that's nice because now you don't have to put an aura on it or.
So that's cool. Of course, you see this card, my mind immediately goes, well, maybe just play a goddamn hippie. Just play a stupid fucking Hypnotic Spectre.
Yeah,
I'm swearing.
yeah,
Maybe
right,
just play a
right.
hippie. You can't Dark Ritual into this. It could still be bolted. Doesn't fly. Does have fear, though.
Yeah.
But it's a zombie. You get some zombie synergy. I typed Hypnotic Spectre into a Gatherer just to make sure that it wasn't errated into a zombie or anything. Don't think it has been. I don't think it's a zombie. It's not a zombie, if my mind is remembering correctly. So this is a zombie. You get zombie synergy with this that you don't get with Hippie. But they get to choose to discard a card. They get to choose the card they discard, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
Hippie's random. So I'm going back and forth. I just can't make up my mind. I think maybe I just built a mono black deck where I play 4 Hippies, 4 Order of Yawgmoth, 4 Abyssal Specters. You probably don't win much, but you annoy everybody who you play against. Maybe you just do that. Any thoughts?
No, sure, yeah. Yeah.
It's like a decent card. You know, if you were drafting or
not
something.
expect you put that down, it's a target immediately. You know, no one wants that coming through and making them discard cards. So, you know, you play this too, and it's even more pressure of that sort.
Yeah, I wonder how that would work out. Like 12 or more of creatures that make you discard when it gets through.
Play some Megrims and
very simple build, never done it, but 4 Abyssal Specters, 4 Order of Yawgmoth, 4 Hypnotic Specters, 4 the rack, 4 Hymn to Thorax. I don't even know what formats Hymn to Thorax are legal in any longer.
yeah.
No Mind Twist in Premodern. Play him anyways.
Lots of duress, though.
Lots of duress, lots of cabal therapies.
Oh, yeah.
Zombie number 8. B team zombie number 8. We're going back again to one that I know from back in the day. One that I never played, but I know it.
Me neither.
It's Ash and Ghoul. It's an uncommon from Ice Age and printed in a dual deck. Pretty cool art. 3 colors, 1 black. Summon Ghoul. currently errated to summon zombie on Gatherer. 3/1. Ashen Ghoul can attack the turn it comes into play. Pay 1 black. Return Ashen Ghoul to play under your control. Use this ability only at the end of your upkeep and only if Ashen Ghoul is in your graveyard with at least 3 creature cards above it. Rating of 3.681 on Gatherer. Current market price 25 cents. I almost bought some of these the other day. I didn't, but I'm going to.
I might have some, Steve. I could probably just give them to you.
No, I got to buy them. Trying to buy out. Starting to buy out, Alex. I like this one, but maybe just because nostalgia. I don't know. I do like that it comes into play with haste.
Yes.
So it's like
So
you're
yeah,
attacking with a 3/1 on turn 3, potentially.
it's kind of like you get this like ball lightning-y kind of thing going on. Like these keep hopping out and attacking and dying and hopping back out and attacking.
Yeah, and it comes directly back into play with haste for only 1 mana. So yeah, it takes more than that to play it out the first time with haste, but then keeps coming back. But it keeps coming back only conditionally. And sometimes it's going to be hard to meet that condition. It seems like it would be hard unless you're building a deck that's really conscious of this card and its effects all the time.
Definitely. Yeah. Like I thought about, I pulled this up for my zombie deck a few weeks ago, and I kind of fiddled with it, and then I ended up taking it out. And my reasoning was kind of one, it's like the better it's working, the less it makes itself able to work. Does that make sense? Like if you're bringing it out, now you're reducing the number of cards in your graveyard, so it can be hard to keep like that cycle going. You know what I mean? I thought about putting like Nether Shadows or something else that worked this way in with it. But again, I was worried a little bit that I might, once I start popping some of them out, then I like don't have any way to bring more of them out. If they're not going back into the graveyard, if like I have a couple creatures down, then I can't like keep pulling more out. And then I just thought like Oversold Cemetery lets me do basically the same thing without having to spend the black mana.
Okay.
I
always forget exactly what Oversold Cemetery does. You've been playing around with that card, I think.
it's one of my
I always forget
cards I'm really into right now, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. It's 1 black, 1 colorless enchantment.
Oversold Cemetery. 1 black, 1 colorless enchantment.
Oh, wait till
recently reprinted in Wilds of Eldraine.
See what it does.
The beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, okay, yeah, when this is out.
And not in play. So,
yes,
not quite as good as that effect, but you don't have to spend the black for it every time. And it works with all of the creatures in your graveyard.
All of the creatures.
So since I've been messing with this, I was looking at that and I'm kind of like, maybe just run Oversold Cemetery instead of the Ashen Ghoul.
All good points, Alex. Some people do make this card work. They have tried to make this card work a few different ways. I found some decks, a couple different sites. Decks people built in 2023, decks people built back in the 90s. One I found on TC Decks, played in the North American Premodern Championship in 2022. It's a zombie infestation deck.
Oh, so Squee. I like that in there. That's a good idea to play with this card.
Yeah, it has 4 Ashen Ghouls. It runs some Krovikan Horrors, which is another card that you can bring back.
That's another one I've wanted to mess with, and I keep going like, no, but I want to.
Masticores, which I don't know why exactly they run in this deck, but I'm thinking maybe it's because, you just don't pay the upkeep and then it ends up in your graveyard, and then it's 1 more card that you can use to bring back your Ashen Ghoul or something. And, when you do want to, if you do want to discard, if you do want to pay the upkeep, it's very useful when you do need to keep it in play, when you want to keep it in play. Squeeze, of course. And then they run it with Buried Alive. 2 colorless, 1 black sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards. Put them in your graveyard, then shuffle your library.
And that's a standard card for, like, I don't know if I'm using the right words, but like dredge, graveyard decks. I don't know what dredge technically is.
We got to get into that in a future episode. We got to learn about the origins of dredge. It comes from a modern card, but yeah, it's a graveyard deck.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I figured, but yeah, I didn't want to use it incorrectly.
And then it runs zombie infestations. Discard 2 cards, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mono black zombie infestation deck.
All right, so now I'm totally stoked about Ash and Ghoul again. Seeing it in with these other cards. This is kind of, just what you would want to do with it.
I found this deck from the U.S. Nationals, 1997, played by Bob Maher. Came in tied for 3rd or 4th. Same year, somebody played a Bone Dancer deck, actually. Came in 3rd, 4th, tied with this Buried Alive deck. 4 Ash and Ghouls, Krovikan Horrors again, Nether Shadows, which you mentioned, wanting to play with this card, and then Buried Alive.
I see also the Necrotol in there, and I like that. I've messed with that in graveyard decks because you keep bringing it out, and you can use its enter the battlefield effect for creature removal over and over again.
Yeah. So this is just efficient Black Knights, and then some graveyard shenanigans, annoying graveyard creatures.
Oh, a Necro and 2 Necros in there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So there's 2 ideas, 2 types of things you could do with that deck. I'm assuming these days, if you're going to brew it, you would go something along the zombie infestation route with take advantage of some of these cards that weren't in existence back in 1997.
Yeah, zombie infestation works really well with Ash and Ghoul. That's cool.
This zombie infestation card also has a copy of the number 9, the 9th B team zombie we're going to talk about. That zombie is Graveborn Muse, one of the muses. We've talked about this card previously when we reviewed and learned about the Muse cycle from Legions. This is a rare from Legions, also printed in 10th edition and in the list. It's 2 colorless, 2 black, casting cost. I wrote Summon Ghoul, currently zombie on Gather. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I wrote down the wrong thing. It's right here from Legions. Summon Zombie Spirit. So forget what I was just saying. I was confusing it with the Ash and Ghoul. This is not Summon Ghoul. It was always Summon Zombie Spirit.
Oh.
It's a 3/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of zombies you control. It has a rating of 3.809 on Gather. Current market price of $2.01, down from over $6, where it was in late 2021, early 2022. Nicolas Cage was in our comments for last episode. He left us a comment that just said, "Play Graveborn Muse." Was Nicolas Cage's comment.
Under advisement.
We first learned about this card, like I said, when we talked about it in episode 36 of the Old Man Magic podcast, our discussion of the Muse cycle from Legions. When we got to Graveborn Muse, I mentioned that I liked it because it was a zombie deck, or because it was a zombie. And I mentioned that I will be building a zombie deck in late 2023 or 2024. The timeline has been revised to definitely 2024. I won't be building it in 2023, but it will happen in 2024. I ran into too many other decks I wanted to build in 2023. I have to assemble my Slivers deck next, and I still don't have my Slivers. I still feel the same way about this card that I felt when we first talked about it in episode 36. It scares me. It makes me a little bit nervous, but I do want to give it a try. I'd prefer to run it in a deck that has a limited number of zombies, so I'm less likely to kill myself, and I can kind of control the card draw. Or if I'm feeling adventurous, I might want to run it in a zombie horde deck, but also have some sort of safety valve in there. Run it with other zombies that allow me to sacrifice things to those zombies.
Yeah.
So I could limit the damage from the Graveborn Muse if
with the
needed.
Mantuko Husk and the carry-on feeder. Yeah.
So it looks like an exciting card to play. It looks like a fun card to play, but there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, or else you're going to kill yourself potentially. There's probably also things to do here. You could put them in certain types of decks where if you could draw a certain number of cards, you have a high probability of just killing your opponent that turn or the next turn. So you have to have some explosiveness that you can play out with the mana that you're going to be able to generate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like build a deck where you're like, okay, if I'm on turn 4 or turn 5 and I draw 7 cards, I have this X probability that I'm going to draw into these cards that are going to allow me to kill my opponent the next turn or that turn. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be an explosive deck. I tend not to build explosive decks.
This is slower and maybe jankier, but like, what about doing this with like Ivory Tower and like, you know, back in the day, people used to do like Ivory Tower Library of Lang combo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make your hand unlimited size and you gain life for your big hand. I mean, I could see maybe doing something like that with this.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Ivory Tower would, you know, mitigate.
It's going to be a major target.
Huh?
It's going to be a major target.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have some way to offset. It could be Ivory Tower. It could be just general. Think of other ways to try to offset this life loss. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Zernorb. Etc.
Next card, number 10, the Zombie B team. This is one I don't think we've talked about before, and I don't know that I saw it until I was going through the list of pre-modern legal zombies. Grave Defiler. It's an uncommon from Apocalypse. Maybe we did see it. Maybe you showed this. You know, there's a lot of cards you showed me just like very briefly. What'd you say?
I don't think I know this card, no.
Okay, then. It's new to you.
I probably said something about it like 15 episodes ago.
It's very possible. It's an uncommon from Apocalypse. This is the only printing of this card. Casting cost of 3 colors, 1 black. It's 2/1. When Grave Defiler comes into play, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all zombie cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. You can pay 1 colorless and 1 black to regenerate Defiler. It has a rating of 4.026 on Gather, a current market price of 21 cents. It's dirt cheap. I first saw this and I thought, I'm digging this, but I don't see it played. I wonder what's going on. It looks to me like almost the Goblin Ringleaders of zombies, a potential card advantage engine for zombie decks. But you see Goblin Ringleader as 4 ofs in every pre-modern zombie, every pre-modern goblin deck, but I don't ever see this card in zombie decks. What's going on? Well, first thought was maybe the density of creatures in competitive zombie decks just isn't high enough to make this worthwhile. We talked about some competitive zombie decks last week. Pulling up this one, Robert Lund playing zombies in the Premodern Online Monthly, June 2022, where he came in 4th from a pool of 101 players. He ran 22 creatures in this deck. So I'm like, okay, that's less than you see in typical competitive pre-modern goblin decks. Here's an example of a pre-modern goblin deck. Tom Gatelski came in 1st out of a pool of 16 players, Magic Online Society, August Playoffs number 2, a pretty standard red-green pre-modern goblins deck here, where you have 33 creatures. So if you have a card like this that allows you to put a creature card of the particular clan into your hand, if it's the next card on top of your deck, the higher density of creatures you have in your deck, the more likely you are to add that card to your hand, as opposed to put it in your graveyard, or in the case of Defiler, on the bottom of your library.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, maybe it has something to do with the density of creatures. But I found this fella, Kostek, playing zombies, came in 2nd out of a pool of 48 players, named Magic Online Society, May 2023, semi-monthly number 1, where he also played 23 zombies, very similar to the 22 zombies we saw played by Robert Lund. And he ran 3 grave defilers. Did very well in a fairly large online tournament. 3 grave defilers. So he made it work even if you don't have 30 plus creatures. This was an interesting deck to me. This is very different than some of the zombie decks that we saw last week. He called it Big Mana Zombies. That's the deck name. Big Mana Zombies, baby. He eschews 1-drops. He plays Cabal Coffers to generate enough mana to play his 3-drop and his 4-drop zombies. I like this. I'm digging it.
Which one is Noxious Ghoul again? Can you remind me?
No.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it next.
No.
Yeah, I'll just do it right now. Noxious Ghoul is a 3 colorless, 2 black, 3/3. Whenever it or another zombie enters the battlefield, you give all non-zombies -1/-1 to turn.
Okay.
So, my first thought, why don't I see Grave Defiler? Maybe the density of zombies just isn't high enough in most zombie decks to make this work. Well, this guy has an average density of zombies in his zombie deck. He made it work. He did very well in this tournament, 48 people. So my next thought is maybe the reason you don't see it more often is just because of the way most people play zombies. They want to curve into 1-drops and 2-drops with zombies. And you just don't have enough space in a traditional zombie deck that wants to play things out on curve for another 4-drop and Grave Defiler. The zombie decks we talked about building last week, it's 1-drops, 2-drops, 3-drops. I think maybe I was thinking about putting 1 4-drop in the deck, and there's a lot of 4-drops to choose from. Do you necessarily make a Grave Defiler? So that was my thought.
Sorry, can you remind me what the goblin is that's like Grave Defiler again?
Goblin Ringleader.
Goblin Ringleader.
I'll pull that up.
Okay, I wanted to check and see if it also put things on the bottom of your library.
Goes to the graveyard, right?
It does. No, it's bottom of your library.
Oh, okay. I was forgetting. Yeah, the rest on the bottom of your library. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure why people don't play it as much. I like that you put them on the bottom of your library if it's not a goblin or a zombie card, because if it's like land you don't need, then you're sort of thinning your deck by getting it out of the way.
Yeah.
And when you pulled up Grave Defiler, the first thing that came to my mind was Gem Palm Polluter. That would be cool with this.
Because you're getting more zombies out. You're getting more zombies in your hand, getting more zombies out.
Yeah, and it has the cycling
your
thing
polluter
too, so like I don't know what I'm trying to say.
But yeah, so my conclusion was like, I don't really know why more people don't play it. Other than my second thought, that's just not how most people want to play zombies. They want to curve out first.
That might be it. Yeah, just that it's
8 1-drops, 4 to 8 2-drops, 3-drops. Limit your 4-drops because they just don't play zombies as a bigger creature, more mana hungry deck. I don't know, but I thought it was cool. I found this deck showing that you can make this guy work. He's still worthwhile playing it, and just a creature with 20 some zombies, 23 zombies. I wonder if I kind of want to play around with making a zombie deck that has as many creatures as an average goblin deck, 30 to 34. Put the Grave Defiler in it, see how, just as your only 4-drop, see how it performs.
Mm-hmm.
I love putting more cards in my hand.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a lot of other ways to generate card advantage in zombies, as far as I know. The Grave Defiler can do this. I love the Ringleader for that reason. So
it's what I'm trying to think about. I'm sitting here puzzled, like scratching my head, because I'm trying to figure out a way to make use of, like, I mean, obviously drawing cards is good no matter what, but like with this, you can stack your hand with more zombie cards that maybe you could then be discarding into your graveyard with
absolutely
some of the effects we saw before, like Putrid Imp or the guy we just talked about this week. So yeah, it might present an opportunity for pumping your hand to pump your graveyard to, bring all that stuff into like a chain or an engine or something.
Now, I think it's interesting and potentially underplayed.
I'd try it, yeah.
Let's go on to number 11. Number 11 on the B team. It's the one we just talked about. Bring him up again. Noxious Ghoul. I just told you it was 5 casting costs. I just told you it was 3/3. I just told you it was a summoned zombie. And I just told you that when it comes into play, it gives all non-zombie creatures -1/-1 until end of turn. What I didn't tell you yet is that it has a rating of 3.932 on Gather and a current market price $3.96.
When I look at the art on this, what it immediately reminds me of is an old He-Man action figure comic book.
It does look.
He-Man. Yeah, you agree with me?
Yeah, I'm just blown away because I'm sitting here staring at the fact that in mid-2021, people 10x'd this card. What the hell's going on here? You stupid idiots.
That's like one of the most like straight up vertical spikes I've ever seen on this website.
Yeah, why on this card? Anyways, let's zoom in on this He-Man inspired art.
Yeah, I'm glad that you knew what I was talking about because it totally looks like He-Man art.
I mean, it almost looks like a green zombie version of Skeletor.
Yeah.
So this guy's good for dealing with 1/1s, sometimes even 2/2s. But mana cost is quite high. I think I'm just going to stick to my Festering Goblins, my Plague Bearers, my Smothers, and Vendettas to try to get rid of my opponent's creatures in a zombie deck. It's 5 mana.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's 4 mana that's pretty decent and chunky for a zombie deck, so I'm probably happy just, being at that level. I do like, though, that it's every time another zombie comes into play. So the turn after you get this guy down, if you have more cards in your hand still,
that is true.
You can crush.
That is true. But you got to have the mana in your hand, 1 to play this guy, and then 2 to play multiple zombies on the turn after.
You have to wait till the next turn and have extra cards and things you haven't brought out yet. Yeah.
How do you set that up? Well, you play big mana zombies like the guy we just saw. Grave Defiler, multiple zombies drawn, a couple of coffers to generate big mana to play multiple zombies after your Noxious Ghoul,
Oversold Cemetery, keep bringing them back to your hand.
Oversold Cemetery.
Or Unearth.
So interesting. I wouldn't play him in just any zombie deck, but can go into the right zombie deck. A big mana zombie deck, for instance. Zombie B team member number 12. This is one that I hadn't seen till I went through the entire list of pre-modern zombies. Gravespawn Sovereign. Gravespawn Sovereign.
I don't think I know this one.
It's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
It's a weird one, Alex. It's a rare from Onslaught, Commander Innistrad, and the list. It has plummeted in price. People decided they no longer want to play the Gravespawn Sovereign. No idea why they all came to that decision in early 2022.
That's some weird art.
It is weird art. I don't even know what it is.
That thing's creepy.
4 colorless, 2 black. It is a summon zombie lord. It's 3/3. Wild ability. Tap 5 untapped zombies you control. Put target creature card from a graveyard into play under your control. 3.920 on Gather. Current market price $1.15. This creature is big and dumb. Probably not playable, but I like it. I'm surprised it's rated as high as it is on Gatherer, 3.920. Some person brought up, I saw a comment on Gatherer, and I like this comment. It seems, nice thing to do, a pleasant thing to do for a fun casual deck. Try with Drownoo's Crusade and Siege Gang Commander. So, we're talking Gabagools here.
Mm-hmm.
With the Drownoo's Crusade in play, all goblins are zombies. You can then bring back Siege Gang for 4 more zombies, which you can tap again, and which will all have +1/+1. So, you got your Crusade out, you play your Siege Gang Commander, you got a whole bunch of zombies. then you're
I get it, but
tapping all those
that's
zombies.
how much mana are you investing in this combo now?
Well, I said now you're talking 6 mana for Grave Spawn, 5 mana for Siege Gang. It's a whole lot. Cabal Coffers would come in handy here, but now you're talking red black, not just mono black. So your Cabal Coffers aren't going to be nearly as useful. Undead War Chief would come in handy here, but then that's also 4 mana. So you got to play a 4 mana card, a 5 mana card, and a 6 mana card. But it's it's an idea. Comment was posted by Idea Tog.
Idea Tog.
I don't want to dissuade him from coming up with ideas.
It's ideas.
Be creative. We come up with things. They're not always the best things, but I don't,
yeah,
don't want to neg you. I don't want to make you feel self-conscious. Spit them out. We're spitballing here, man.
Yeah, I don't know, for 6 mana, it's a lot. I'd probably try to like minimize how much I'm trying to combo with it. I'd probably just try to play it like in the super traditional way, like make sure I just have like tons of low casting cost zombies and tokens out.
Yeah, I mean, we're zombie tokens here. That's
Yeah.
You can generate zombie tokens.
The art on this is wild. I looked at click on the other version of it, the Innistrad version. They changed the coloring a lot, so you can actually see it more.
Commander Innistrad. Oh yeah. Midnight Hunt. Lightened it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Tasty.
Tasty.
It's got quite the mane on them.
Reminds me of Attack on Titan. Did you ever see that, Steve?
No, but I've heard Marjorie Taylor Greene looks a lot like a Titan. That's what I've heard. Is that true? Is it true?
I hadn't heard that, but I understand.
Okay.
It's about some big things that look like that pick people up and bite them in half.
Oh, okay.
Just like that guy's doing.
I mean, it's a cartoon, but like, what is it? Is it anime style?
Yeah,
is it?
It's an anime that's about this like oh, I don't even know how to describe it, but yeah, there's civilization is like exists
Crumbling.
behind a wall to keep out giant Titan monsters that like roam mindlessly and pick you up and eat you.
Okay. Cosmic horrors.
Yeah.
So that's Gravespawn Sovereign. It's wild. Very unique. A lot of other cards like that out in the zombie world. Maybe a one of a kind. Interesting. When I see a card that has like a crazy effect when you tap 5 creatures, I'm drawn to it. I do like Skirk File Marshal in my Goblin deck. But that's because I like the ability to just do 10 damage to everything and potentially end the game if I'm going to lose anyways. I like to take myself out along with my opponent and force a draw. I can't do that with Gravespawn Sovereign.
No.
So I don't like it as much. We're going to go to number 13 of the V-Team Zombies. This one is not one that they play in any zombie deck, really. This is a special case zombie. It is Sutured Ghoul. It's a rare from Judgment in Magic 2012. Let's go to the Judgment one. 4 colorless, 3 black, summon zombie. It is star. It has trample. A Sutured Ghoul comes into play. Remove any number of creature cards in your graveyard from the game. Sutured Ghoul's power is equal to the total power of the removed cards, and its toughness is equal to their total toughness. A star on a card and not in play is 0. A star on a card not in play is 0. Rating of 4.183 on Gatherer, current market price 37 cents. On its own as a zombie, it's interesting, but often may be a negative with zombie because you're often bringing the zombies back from your dang old graveyard.
Yeah, you're gonna mess up your own graveyard.
But it has explosive combo potential, which is exactly what people do with this card. It also has exquisite abs, and I like how low that speedo's going, Alex. It's enticing. People play this card with Buried Alive, Hermit Druid to fill your graveyard, Shallow Grave to bring this fella back, maybe even sometimes with Dragon's Breath attached to him. I think we briefly touched on this card when we talked about the combo people run with them in Dragon Aura segment that we did.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I'd probably, I'm a shy away from anything with like that casting cost, but I'd maybe try to play it again, like not so much in a zombie deck, maybe more in like a some kind of like graveyard stacking deck.
Yeah. An explosive graveyard, bam, come back from the graveyard deck.
Mill
Kick you in
yourself,
the dick.
suture up everything, smash.
One day we're going to talk about Angry Hermit decks.
Okay.
But now is not that time. Instead, we're
I'm
going to
an
move
angry
on.
hermit.
What'd you say?
I'm an angry hermit.
Now is the time for us to move on to gold bordered cards.
Oh.
Why, you ask? Because there are gold bordered zombies. And if there are gold bordered cards, I need to talk about them and play them in stupid decks. The 14th B team zombie that I want to talk about is the first gold bordered zombie we're going to talk about. And it's Lava Zombie. Lava Zombie is a common from Plane Shift.
I remember this.
Casting cost of 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 red. There's a Lava Zombie. There's a Goblin, shifting it into and out of different planes.
What's the lava zombie doing?
It's striking a pose. It's doing that pose.
I feel like he's like hand squeezing orange juice.
It's doing this pose.
He's like, I'm gonna squeeze this orange juice into the cup for you. Ah.
It's doing this. Is he wheezing the juice? I don't know. When he comes into play, you return a red or a black creature you control to its owner's hand. You can pay 2 colorless to give Lava Zombie +1/+0 until end of turn. Has a 3.757 rating on Gatherer, current market price of 19 cents. Decent ability, but I don't like this guy in zombie decks. I do like him with Ravenous Rats, Flame Tongue Kavu, Avalanche Riders, Necrotol, all these red and black cards from the pre-modern era that have enter the battlefield abilities. Want to run them in a zombie deck? Would run them in like a enter the battlefield black-red deck.
Yeah, Flame Tongue Kavu. Yeah.
Ravenous Rats is, I don't know if you know that one, but it's 1 colorless, 1 black, I think. 1/1 Rats, which when it comes into the battlefield, your opponent discards a card.
Okay, that was the only one I didn't know.
Maybe random.
Said Necrotol. Oh, and Avalanche Riders too for land destruction would be sweet with them. Yeah.
Yeah, Ravenous Rats. Ravenous Rats comes into play. Target opponent discards a card. Doesn't say random.
I've
So
seen that before. What set's it from originally?
Not 9th edition. Torment.
Torment.
I'm wrong. Invasion.
Invasion. Oh,
I don't
Invasion
remember.
of Rats.
I don't remember. I feel like I should be playing Ravenous Rats.
Doesn't seem bad to me.
Well, it's not bad. It's good.
Yeah. How come? Why don't I see it more?
I don't know.
Everyone's like duress, but no one's like Ravenous Rats.
Yeah. Well, you see duress and all sorts of decks that they're not necessarily. I don't know. You see, duress shows up in every deck because people will just play black, so they can duress you if they have some kind of combo.
They don't care about the creature; they just care. Yeah,
they want to take certain cards out of your hand to prevent you from preventing them doing what they want to do. So, like it ends up in all sorts of decks.
Oh, also, this would be opponent's choice of card too, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess maybe that's the answer. You don't see it all that often because in pre-modern, I don't see a lot of discard heavy decks. I don't see a lot of straight up discard decks. What I see,
choice discard with duress. Yeah.
What I see are combo decks or decks that rely on key cards paired with some duress to get counters out of your opponent's hand.
The count, to get rid of the counters, for sure.
Or to get removal out of your opponent.
When I read this, I was reading it as it being a random discard as opposed to them choosing. So, but still, I'd play with this in some kind of decks. Is it still just? Hold on, I'm looking it up. By the way, Gravespawn Sovereign is not a lord anymore. On Gatherer, just calls it a zombie.
What the fuck?
And
I don't
this
even
is
remember
just
what.
a rat. So it's, I was wondering if maybe it was like a zombie rat or something.
No. I mean, I just brought this up because he has an enter the battlefield effect.
Yeah.
What did you say is not a lord?
The last one we just talked about, Gravespawn
Okay.
Sovereign.
Okay. Well, that's weird. He should be a lord.
Yeah, I don't know why they would take it off.
That guy has lord-like abilities,
He's
lord-like
big.
features.
He eats the poor, apparently.
That's the way the world works. It's depressing. Zombie B team member number 15.
Number 15. The team is huge.
I love this one. Why do I love this one? Because I see a gold border 2-drop manimal. I play it. I play it. That's just what I do. Common from Apocalypse. Llanowar dead. 1 black, 1 green, 2/2. Zombie elf. Tap to add 1 black to your mana pool. 3.789 on Gatherer. Current market price of 18 cents. No idea what I'm going to do with this. I just know that because it exists, I'm going to build a black-green deck. I'm going to put this guy in. That's it.
I like these gold border 2-drop 2/2s, you know. That's pretty cool. The problem with cards like this for me is that like I need the black to get it out to tap it for the black.
That is true.
You know, it'd be nice if it gave me mana that I didn't have already to get it down.
Would be nice if it was an Elves of Deep Shadow, but it's not. I said guy. It's a lady. It's a lady zombie elf.
What's she doing to that tree?
Cutting it down.
Is she?
I don't know. She's been zombified. I think she's losing her mind and she's destroying the forest.
Okay.
Which is not what elves typically do, but I think that's what's happening. Just as leaves fall from the branches of a living tree, so too do the dead leaf of dead. Jeez Louise, let me try that again.
So too do the dead leave the Elfheim.
Just as leaves fall from the branches of a living tree, so too do the dead leave the Elfheim. There we go.
I think maybe she's just like leaning on the tree for support, and she's like coming towards us with the sword.
She's stumbling.
Yeah.
She's stumbling. She was going to trip over the root. She's steadying herself on the branch.
Yeah.
This will not be the strongest card I could put in a 2-drop slot, but I'm going to put it in there anyways. It is part of a cycle. There's a cycle in Apocalypse of 2 mana enemy colored gold common creatures, all of which have different abilities.
Is this the one with the Gaia's flying merfolk?
Gaia Skyfolk.
Yeah.
I think there's a blue, black zombie merfolk.
Okay.
And there's other ones too. And I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Yeah, the blue-green one was the one I thought of when this came up. Because I like that. It's 2/2 flying for 2. That's nice.
That's quite good, yeah. We're on to number 16, Alex. Number 16 on the B team. Another gold zombie. Shivan zombie. 1 black, 1 red. Creature barbarian. It's from Invasion. 2/2. Protection from white. 3.9 on Gather. A market price of 16 cents. This is part of another cycle. There's an invasion cycle of 2 mana, friendly color, allied color, gold common creatures, all of which had protection from their shared enemy color.
Oh, okay, cool.
Not much to say about this guy. Other than, I don't know, if you're playing black-red, maybe you side, and it's a creature-based deck, maybe you sideboard this guy.
Yeah.
In when your opponent has Swords to Plowshares and you're clearing all your creatures off the board with swords.
He's the second zombie barbarian we've seen today.
Yes.
Maybe there's something there.
I don't think so. I mean, I had the same. Well, I mean, of course that popped in my head too, but I'm like, there's not a lot of barbarian.
I don't know of any cards
action
that
out
affect
there.
Barbarians either. You know, like all barbarians get +2.
They exist. Oh, they're not that good. I'm trying to. There was a set. We haven't made it that far yet.
Okay.
But I've come across them randomly here and there. There was a set where they tried to they tried to do the barbarian thing, and they didn't do it very well, as they do sometimes when they try to build up a clan.
Yeah.
They just don't make them quite good enough, so nobody ever plays them.
I would like to see that too, because I don't know, something like I'd like to see like Keldon Warlord, errata to be a barbarian.
Number 17. We got another black-red one here. So we talked about 3 black-red zombies you could be playing. You put 4 of these 3. You got 12 creatures to fill out a really shitty deck. Play them all together. Pyre Zombie. 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 red. 2/1 summon zombie. It's a rare from Invasion. At the beginning of your upkeep of Pyre Zombie, whoa, geez Louise. Settle down, Steve. If Pyre Zombie is in your graveyard, you may pay 1 colorless, 2 black. If you do, return Pyre Zombie from your graveyard to your hand. You can also pay 1 colorless, 2 red, sacrifice Pyre Zombie. Pyre Zombie deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So you can blow them up for 3 to deal 2 damage, bring them back, blow them up. Then you got to play them out again, blow them up. Very mana hungry. Like,
yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity here for some sort of black-red prison deck, but I don't know. It's very mana hungry, very slow.
I like that you can sacrifice them for 2. That's not bad. As opposed to like 1 or something, but
2 damage is better than 1 damage.
I'm trying to imagine, using this guy with that like double color mana cost, black, red all the time.
Yeah. I didn't even mention that. I mean, you need to pay 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 red to play him. But then for his abilities, if you want to cycle through them, if you want to chain them, you got to pay a colorless and 2 black for one of the abilities, and you got to pay a colorless and 2 red for the other ability. You got to have at least 5 mana out, and 2 of your mana have to be able to generate 2 black, and 2 of your mana have to be able to generate 2 red.
Yeah. I see this just as kind of like one of those like mana sink things you do with your leftover mana, maybe, but I wouldn't be relying on it.
No. Even if you do get the mana out to do both of these things together, here come the wastelands.
Just play some different zombies.
Play some different zombies. This guy isn't even B team worthy. It's just that he had a gold border, so that's why he's here, Alex. To be honest, that's the truth. Let's move on to number 18. We're almost through the B team. We got 3 more. I put 20 members on the B squad. It's too many members.
They march on relentlessly.
Zombie Trailblazer.
I mentioned this one. This was one of my picks.
Long time ago?
No, last week when we were talking about what the B team, which.
Oh, yeah. Yes. We didn't talk about it on the show. You did say, hey,
yeah.
Steve, Zombie Trailblazer. I added them to the list for the next one.
Yeah.
Next show. 3 black. Uncommon from Torment. 2/2. Creature zombie. Tap and untap zombie you control. Target land becomes a swamp until end of turn. Tap and untap zombie you control. Target creature gains swamp walk until end of turn. I wrote, cool, I'm into this. I think it's not strong enough to take this 3-drop slot in a 60-card zombie deck, but I will put this shit in a commander deck every day. If I have a zombie commander deck, I want this guy in it. There's always going to, if he gets the board, there's going to be something else I have going on that I could make real big and then I want to get through. That's my opinion. 55 cents current market price. Don't ask me what the Gatherer rating is. I don't know.
The good thing I like about this is that its activated ability is open. You can use it multiple times.
Yep.
I could tap 4 zombies and turn 4 of your lands into swamps, which could be, very helpful if someone's playing a multicolored deck.
That's true. I don't know why I'm not even thinking about. I mean, just that ability on its own. Yeah, that can mana screw your opponents.
Yeah. Do some I know it's not exactly like a Rashad and Port. You're not tapping the land, but you're turning it into swamps and they can't use them.
It can be very annoying a lot of the time, especially if you're playing a blue deck and they're like, oh, you're like, oh, you got 2 blue open? Whoopity-doo. Tapping a zombie token. Oh, you got 3 blue open? Whoopity-doo. Tapping 2 zombie tokens. stuff like that. This guy also kind of looks like somebody from He-Man.
Yeah.
I like the Trailblazer.
Yeah. And obviously, probably only going to make it into a mono black zombie
Yes.
deck, but that's fine.
Some zombies are natural reborn leaders. They're getting cute with the flavor text there. Number 19. This is another B-Team zombie that you mentioned last week. You said, Steve, I want to talk about Vengeful Dead. Let's work Vengeful Dead into this show. I said, sure thing, buddy. Vengeful Dead is a common from Scourge. Casting cost of 3 colorless, 1 black, 3/2. Summon zombie. Whenever Vengeful Dead or another zombie is put into a graveyard from play, each opponent loses 1 life. Similar thoughts to the last one, at least on my end. He's not gonna take the 4-drop slot in my 60-card zombie deck. But Commander,
Yeah.
because it ends in each opponent, I like that.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of my 100.
Yeah, definitely fun in the multiplayer game.
I don't know if you had any other comments on the Vengeful Dead.
That's mostly it. Yeah, great for multiplayer.
He has 3 arms. They're all different sizes.
I could still maybe mess with this in a 60-card deck, though. If you're using like Carry-On Feeder and you're sacrificing your own zombies a lot, every time I sack one, now my opponent's taking damage.
Sexy Rector.
Festering zombies.
Sexy Rector. You could, if
I don't know what it is yet.
Well, you know the idea behind Sexy Rector, Academy Rector, get the Pattern of Rebirth.
Okay,
put that on a creature like birds or elves to use to ramp out, sacrifice that, go dig for a symbiotic worm, which when it comes into play, you sacrifice it or some shit, you may be able to make a bunch of tokens.
Oh, okay.
And then you sack all the tokens to the husk.
The actual Sexy Rector.
Yeah, that was the whole. Let me pull up symbiotic worm real quick. Because I'm trying to remember if symbiotic worm comes into play with tokens, or I feel like no, sorry. When symbiotic worm's a huge creature, it comes into play, and then when it goes in the graveyard, you generate it's 7/7, then it goes in the graveyard, generates 7/1/1 tokens. So you sacrifice symbiotic worm to the Nantuko husk, it goes to the graveyard, then you generate 7/1/1 tokens, you sacrifice them to the husk. I think that's how it works. Yeah, 7/7. When symbiotic worm is put into a graveyard from play, put 7/1/1 green insect creature tokens into play. So bringing this guy into the battlefield, sacrificing him to the husk. Bringing this guy into the battlefield essentially gives you 8 different creatures to sacrifice to the husk to give +16/+16.
Okay, cool.
I just bring this up because if you have Vengeful Dead out, you don't necessarily need the symbiotic worm because you won't need as many tokens to sacrifice to the husk. Because you won't need as many creatures to pump the husk to do lethal, because for every creature you sacrifice, you'll be pumping the husk, plus you'll be doing 1 damage.
Right.
Or taking 1 life from your opponent via Vengeful Dead.
So deal 10 damage and attack with a 10/10 or 11/11 or whatever.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't need it for the Sexy Rector. They spiked this guy too when he came back down.
Yeah.
The last B team
just a common, right?
It is. It's just a common from Scourge. Who knows why it went up to $3? For no reason. Everybody was drunk. Last B team zombie we're going to talk about, the 20th B team zombie. And then we're going to move on to the Commander Corner, and then we're going to end the episode because my throat hurts.
Oh, this was my pick.
Alex is so proud. He's seeing his picks here. On the B team.
I'm working on a deck for this guy. I like this. Putrid Raptor.
Putrid Raptor, a uncommon from Scourge. It's 4 colorless, 2 black, 4/4 creature zombie beast. It has morph. You discard a zombie card from your hand. You may play this face down as a 2/2 creature for 3 colors. Turn it face up anytime for its morph cost. So, I mean, I never see this, but I read it. I'm like, a turn 3 4/4 seems really good when you have lots of cards in your deck that you want to discard anyways, which you will have in zombie.
That's what I was thinking.
Why don't I see it? I never see it.
I don't know.
I don't have anything to say about it other than that. If you're running a deck where you want to discard cards, this can be a 4/4 on turn 3 for 3.
Like my pitch for this is like, imagine if this card just had 3 colorless at the top as the casting cost, and it said discard a zombie card from your hand, and it was a 4/4. People would be like, "Oh wow, that's sweet."
In a world,
there's too many words down here.
In a world where Putrid Raptor had a casting cost of 3 colorless, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, people would be like, "Oh, that's good."
It is good. I don't know what's rated on Gather. What's rated on Gather? I know the market price is 13 cents, so probably nobody really plays. But I like it. What I don't like is that it's like it's a dinosaur, and that's irrational.
That's irrational. It's rated 3.577 on Gather.
Okay, not that high, but not low.
Not terrible, not great.
Should we buy the shit out of this before everybody starts buying Ixalan cards?
Oh.
Buy all the dinosaurs. It's probably too late. If any dinosaurs are going to spike, they already did. And then if they do spike, they're just going to drop again in six months.
Yeah.
That's the end of our B team zombies. We went through 20 zombies that aren't necessarily going to make my competitive 60 card zombie decks, but I will play at the kitchen table, or I do think have a good spot in any zombie commander deck that I might make.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they were gold cards, and I will play those because they're gold cards. But now, Alex, we're going to move on to segment 2 of today's episode. Segment 2 is the Old Men Magic Commander Corner. This is the segment where we discuss different things Commander related. Today, we're going to talk about some zombie commanders. So last week, we talked about some old frame zombie commanders. We talked about Boris Devilboot. We talked about Lord of Tressorhorn. Let me say that again. Lord of Tressorhorn. Tressorhorn. We talked about Balthor the Defiled. Let's say you're an old man who hasn't played Magic for 20 years. Let's say you sleeve up old Boris. You head down to the local LGS on Halloween to play some zombie-themed commander decks. What's going to be on the other side of the battlefield? That's what Alex and I need to know before we go down there and we get embarrassed. So we're going to look at some modern frame zombie commanders today. What are we going to be facing? There are lots of modern frame zombie commanders. We're not going to talk about many. We're just going to bring up a few that caught my eye. Starting with Nivinril, Urborg Tyrant. This guy caught my eye because he's Nivinril, and I was like, I know that.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I don't know when Nivinril actually first made his way onto a card. I just knew this fella as somebody who had a disc. But he's a legendary creature, zombie wizard. Casting cost of 3 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black. What was he printed in? I see he's in Commander Legends and Commander Legends Extra.
Yes, just Commander Legends, yeah.
Just Commander Legends. Does anybody play this card? Doesn't seem like it because it's available for 10 cents. Maybe it's just old men who are kind of interested in him. But I think he has some pretty nice abilities that I would like to have in a commander. He is 3/6. He's hexproof from artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. That's not the most exciting part to me. When Nivinril Urborg Tyrant enters the battlefield, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token for each creature that died this turn. That's cool. but it's also not the most exciting part to me. When Navinral dies, you may pay 1 colorless. When you do, destroy our artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. That's what I love about Navinral. I like having a commander that I can use as a board wipe. And you might say, okay, what if your opponent doesn't want you to wipe the board? Maybe he doesn't kill Navinral. But remember, Navinral is a zombie, and he's going to be in a zombie deck. And there's going to be a lot of other zombies that you could probably sacrifice Navinral to.
Yeah.
So if you get Navinral out, you're probably, in a lot of instances, going to be able to sack this guy and blow everything up on the board for just 1.
Yeah. Sack him to something, kill everything, bring him back, make all those zombies.
I thought that was pretty cool. It's also in colors that are like pretty good for a deck that's like half aggro, half control, or control style deck where you would want a recurrent board wipe, white, blue, black, good color scheme. I'm into it. I don't know if the kid's really playing or not. He's 10 cents. But
high casting cost.
If high casting cost, yeah. If I got laughed at for Gold Boris, maybe I bust out into Vinroll. Say, who's laughing now? Or maybe I play the next modern frame zombie that looked pretty cool to me. Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver. Cleaving rot left and right. This guy is a pretty badass. Modern frame zombie. I don't know what's going on here. Is this a weird... What is thick stock? Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver thick stock.
Oh, like the thicker stock cards. I heard about that at some point, but I'm still not really sure what it is.
I don't know if they look as terrible as that did on the computer screen. It just the coloration was terrible. Also, thick stock, I think of, paper stock, thicker cards.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah,
why would they
that make them like illegal?
Yeah, what's going on there? Are you looking that up?
I'm trying.
What have they done to modern Magic? Wilhelt the Rot Cleaver is 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black. So we're talking better casting cost here. 3/3 legendary creature, zombie warrior. Whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have decayed, which we have never seen before until right now, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with decayed. Decayed just means it can't block. When it attacks, sacrifice it at the end of combat.
Okay.
At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie. If you do, draw a card. This looks like it was printed in Commander Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And it's only been...
I've seen this before because what it does sounds familiar.
Market price of $5.31.
I
zombie
like
card draw.
This card. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, zombie card draw. So that's one big thing. Zombie card draw.
I like how the things have this decayed mechanic where like you do it once and then they only last a little bit of time and then they go away again.
It's a very flavorful mechanic.
Yeah.
Not the most powerful, but I like the power level. It's an interesting mechanic that fits with like a decaying zombie, and they worked it in a way that would make it very powerful for gameplay, but not overwhelmingly so. You're also producing good sacrifice fodder,
Mm-hmm.
Whenever a zombie you control dies, so every time you sacrifice a zombie, you make a new one with decayed, which is new fodder for you to then sacrifice to something else if you want to keep sacrificing. So it's a constant generator of sacrifice fodder. Or you're just generating, more 2/2 attackers. They only get to attack once, but more are coming.
All right. This says the display commander depicts the main commander of the commander deck and is printed on a significantly thicker cardstock, not tournament legal, can be used in commander games to designate the special status of the commander. So I think it's just like art piece for fun, thicker, chunkier commander card.
And your commander just sits in your command zone, so it doesn't matter if it's fatter.
Yeah.
But also, there's no need for it to be fatter, so this is just a way for them to sell you an extra thing. They're like, oh, you need a fat fucking commander to sit in your command zone. Big, chunky. thick cardstock.
Twice as much paper, twice as expensive.
I'm going to start, the giant novelty cards. That's going to be my command. I want all my commanders printed out like giant novelty card style. And I'm just
I
going
always
to
wanted to get a giant check.
I'm going to bring an
Happy
easel.
Gilmore, when he insists that all the checks he gets are the giant checks.
Every time I play, I'm going to bring an easel on. I'm going to set up my commander on an easel next to me.
I'm gonna put my Chaos Orb on an easel,
Jesus.
flip it over onto the table on everyone else. Chaos Orb.
So will help. Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Better than Boris, Alex? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Third modern frame commander that I saw that caught my eye in a color scheme that I want to start playing more of. I want to just start brewing a bunch of black-green decks just because.
I like black-green.
I've never played enough with it. I don't know that
I
I've
like this
ever
casting cost. Black, black, green, green. That's interesting.
I don't know that I've ever brewed a black-green deck, and I want to now. I mean, I have just a stock rock deck, but that was maybe like the first black-green deck I ever played. But I want to do more of it. And actually, I'm building an old school deck, and it was just mono green. But the idea is eventually to morph it into a black-green.
Okay.
That's why I bought my Elves of Deep Shadow. And then I could throw a Mind Twist in there. I could throw some Terrors in there. I'm facing Sarah Angels and shit. But we're not talking about unpowered budget old school decks right now. We're talking about modern zombie commanders, specifically Gerard, Golgari Lich Lord. Was this just printed in Return to Ravnica, Commander 2015, Commander Anthology, Guilds of Ravnica, Guild Kits, and Dual Decks? Is it versus Golgari? Alex? The kids don't say black-green, they say Golgari. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm aware of these words.
2 black, 2 green, 2/2. Legendary creature, zombie elf. So we have 2 of the best synergies in town built into this commander. A zombie synergy and elf synergy. Gerard Golgari Lich Lord gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. You can pay 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green, sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Sacrifice a swamp and a forest. Return Gerard from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a beast. I mean, it can get big. It can fling shit to do direct damage, and at the same time make itself bigger when you fling that shit at your opponent. There's also a way to bring it back without having to pay the commander tax, but you do lose land. So it's got a lot of pluses.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's a nice card. I like that.
Now I want to talk about one more that I saw that caught my eye that I think would be fun to build around. When I saw this guy, I said, what the friggin' fuck? What the friggin' fuck is this shit? What is going on here? Apparently they're printing gods now. And I want to talk about the Scarab God. It was as high as $40. You can now pick it up for $8.
Oh.
Printed in Hour of Devastation, which I wonder if Hour of Devastation was the set where they first made gods, printed gods. Sacrilegious, by the way. Also printed in Double Masters, Commander Masters, Masterpieces, Amonkhet, and a Secret Lair. Commander Masters or Double Masters is probably when the price dropped, right? This is the printing from Hour of Devastation. It's 3 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black, 5/5, legendary creature, god. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life, and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. Pay 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black, exile target creature card from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. When the Scarab God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a 5/5 for, well, it's a 5/5 for 5. It just drains all of your opponents just for sitting there for however many zombies you have in play. If you have zombies, you're going to have zombies in your zombie deck. It creates 4/4s for 4 mana that will have zombie synergy. And it just comes back to your hand, so you never need to pay the commander tax.
So wait, this is probably a dumb question, but
I don't
so
know if
you
I know the
exile
answer.
a target creature card from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except that it's a 4/4 black zombie. So if it's a creature with abilities, you'll create a copy that is a 4/4 black zombie with those abilities, right?
I think so.
Okay.
And I'm assuming if it's a creature type, well, actually, I don't know. I shouldn't assume. It's a weird way to phrase that. Like if it's an elf,
Will
does
it be an
become
elf and a zombie or just a zombie now?
and not unclear to me.
Yeah.
My initial thought was it would be a 4/4 black zombie elf, but actually I don't know.
That's tough.
Alex, is this card more powerful than Boros Devilboom? Is it a better commander than Boros Devilboom? Is it better than Lord of Treasurehorn? Is it better than Balthor the Defile? Anyways, just another, we don't know modern frame commanders. So just another one that caught my eye that I wanted to bring up. Good example of power creep when you compare the modern frame zombie commanders we talked about today versus the ones we talked about last week. Whole different level. Be hard to compete with the kids if they bring out the Scarab God. What do you do? What
It
do
looks
you
fun
do?
though. I like it. It's pretty cool.
It is fun.
It's not outrageous either though. Like we talk about power creep. When I see this card, I'm like, it's a 2-color 5 casting cost card. So if it's good, I'm okay with that. What makes me mad is when there's like a 1 casting cost card that's super ultimate.
The game's not going to end right away when somebody brings out the Scarab God.
Yeah, and it takes them a while to bring it out.
Now, depending on how many zombies they have out, it might end the next turn.
Yeah, it could get ugly quick, for sure. But
yeah.
It's okay. They have to get a lot of zombies out first, and then they have to play this card, and then they have to keep
play
it
the
out.
card, they have to keep it. They have to play a bunch of zombies. They have to keep them. It's true. It's true. But anyways, that's the end of my modern frame zombie commander discussion. Wasn't really a comprehensive review of modern frame zombie commanders or anything, just some that caught my eye. There's a lot to talk about. Didn't want to talk about all of them, just some.
Dipping our toes in, we learned about a few.
I like the Golgari Lichlord.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
That's probably the one I'd be most likely to play. And that's it. That brings us to the end of episode 64 of the Old Man Magic podcast. If you've listened this long, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We really love all of our listeners. We're really appreciative for all of the new listeners we've received in the last week. It's been fantastic. Thank you for subscribing. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I don't have anything else to say for the week, Alex. I gotta get to bed. I got a few more days of work to get through this week. It's been tough, but I'm gonna continue pushing. I gotta work on the show notes for next week. I don't even know what the hell we're gonna talk about next week yet. I mapped out like topics for several months, and I left out next week, so I don't know. We got to come up with something on the fly.
Oh,
you got any ideas? Let me know. Do you have any words of wisdom to leave the listeners with before we head out for the day?
If you do you know the Halloween song?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You should know the Halloween song, Steve.
Is there a Halloween song? I mean, there's lots of Halloween songs.
The Halloween song goes HALLOWEN. Spells Halloween.
Where'd that come from? Who's the lady who used to talk with the sock puppet?
Oh, Lamb Chop.
Yeah. Is
Sherry
that a lamb?
Something. No,
is it a Lamb Chop song?
Her name, no.
Is it a real song or is it a song you just made up right now?
No, a girl named Becky who I went to college with taught me that song.
Did she write it? Did she compose it?
I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
Does Becky listen to the podcast?
Shout out to Becky. Thanks for the Halloween song.
Are you still in touch with her?
No.
What's her last name? I'm gonna Google her right now. I'm gonna see if I can find her on social media, and if I do, I'm gonna send her a DM. I'm gonna be like, "Hey, this is Alex's podcast. We sang your song at the end. Why don't you subscribe?" I'm gonna do that off the air though. Talk to everybody next week.
Happy Halloween.